Hello and welcome. I'm Tabitha Muthoni. Rwanda will be hosting the 2025 Afreximbank Compliance Forum, and this is a collaboration between the National Bank of Rwanda and the Afreximbank, which focuses or will be focusing on how AI can strengthen compliance, that is from anti-money laundering to counter-terrorism financing. And with me is Nick Barigye, who is the Deputy Governor of the National Bank of Rwanda, to discuss what this game-changer milestone means for Rwanda and the continent. And Nick, thank you so much for your time. So this forum is going to bring together experts from across Africa and beyond. So what does this say about Rwanda's place in the financial world? And also what benefits do you see or foresee for the country in the coming years?
This event is important, not only for Rwanda, but for Africa, for three reasons. One, trade among African countries is growing, and we expect it to continue to grow. Trade is becoming more digital. With that lies in a challenge, in that the more trade grows, the more it becomes digital, the more we also begin to see instances of complex financial crimes happening. And then three, all countries in Africa are looking at how they build anti-money laundering frameworks to ensure that we have compliance at the cornerstone as a foundation of what we do. Gone are the days when we would think about compliance as a box-ticking activity. We now see compliance as the foundation of trust which builds to growth of trade and growth of economies. So it's primarily for that three reasons that the partnership with Afreximbank, with ourselves, becoming conveners of regulators, of financial institutions, of fintechs, of different actors, to dialogue and be at one table to come up with frameworks that speak to the needs of our countries, of our economies, becomes very, very important.
And just looking at that point, that is on securing trade through modern compliance frameworks, there's a lot that we are seeing here. So for Rwanda, what does this mean in real terms, for traders, investors, and even for banks?
Let's give an example. We have a Rwandan company that is looking to export goods to Dubai, let's say. This company will need to work with a local bank. This local bank has a correspondent bank. So when we have strong AML and CFTA frameworks in place, it creates the trust that I was speaking of. It means that the flow of funds across borders, there is trust in where the funds are coming from and in where the funds are going. So that's why it becomes very, very pertinent that as a continent, as we continue to grow trade amongst ourselves, trade and the rest of the world, we are cognizant that fraud and financial crimes are continuing to grow, but it should not stop us from doing business. We should rather have frameworks that we've put in place to protect our economies, to ensure the resilience of the financial sector. And that's why we're also looking, remember that part of the theme of this event is how do we leverage AI? Yes. Again, gone are the days where we would have to do things manually. What opportunities do we see in AI in terms of analysis, real time, being able to triangulate data and ensure that we respond, because financial crimes are also as agile. So the systems that you have in place need to be as agile to ensure that you have a sound, resilience financial ecosystem.
Retracting to the theme of this forum, that is using artificial intelligence to strengthen compliance in areas such as anti-money laundering and also the counter-terrorism financing. Let us look at how, as a bank, the National Bank of Rwanda how well prepared you are for this shift. There's so much that you have seen when it comes to AI and technology evolving, transforming the landscape here in Rwanda. Let us look at this shift and also the difference that this is going to bring in the way you oversee the financial sector.
For the last 6 years, Rwanda has been positioning itself as not only a trade and logistics hub, but also equally as an onshore financial center. Now, in building our financial center, we began to say, what frameworks do we need to have in place to ensure that we create trust? Because I keep going back to trust. Trust is at the heart of the attractiveness of a financial system. So we started by putting in place legal framework. Rwanda today has one of the most robust AML-CFTA law in Africa. Rwanda has signed covenants bilaterally with peers in Africa and outside Africa to ensure that we have the legal framework. Now, after the establishment of the legal framework, we now have institutions. That's what birthed the Financial Intelligence Center. Now, the financial sector is not about one institution. It's about an ecosystem. So we've mounted the role of the National Bank of Rwanda as a regulator. We have the role of the Financial Intelligence Center, and we have the role of the industry and others. That's clearly defined, and we continue to work together. Now, building onto of those two, you have the legal framework, you have the institutions, you now build competencies, both in terms of people and also in terms of technology. So we continue to invest in both those two. Do we have the skills that we need that is going to be agile? Do we have the technology that we need? Yes, we do, but it continues to grow, it continues to evolve. So again, we see us, we're not saying we are the best that there is, but we're saying we have lessons learned that we want to discuss with peers, see best practices from them. We believe that as a continent, as regulators, as financial institutions, the more we collaborate, the more we demonstrate commitment, it augurs well for all of us to grow as countries, as economies. That's Rwanda's positioning. It has never been about Rwanda play alone. It's how do we leverage our centrality? How do we leverage the lessons and things that we've done and they're working, but also how do we benchmark from others? We believe, and I say this quite often, that you can compete while collaborating. So the financial actors can compete. Regulators are there to create safety, to create stability, and to create frameworks for resilience. And we are very glad to be partnering with one of the biggest financial institutions in Africa, which is Afreximbank.
Skills, that is human capital. That is very important. But looking at where we can leverage on, we do have the youth. They make the most or the highest percentage here in the country. So how are you planning to work with the youth when it comes to deepening some of these technology skills in place and also creation or improvising on technology?
A couple of ways. One, do we have the learning institutions to train? Yes, but we want to see more. We have good international universities, we have good local universities that are creating those skills. We have the legal framework that I spoke of. But beyond those two, we also, as regulators, for example, the National Bank of Rwanda has a sandbox regulatory framework that enables these youth to come up with these innovations, to test and see whether they respond to the needs of the market. So we have training institutions to give the skills. We've created a legal framework that is conducive, that is favorable, but we've gone another step further. Said sometimes African youth, not just Rwandan skills, at times is actually overtrained. So beyond the training, beyond the legal framework, they also need funding that is long-term, that is patient. Again, this is where Rwanda is at the forefront of working with strategic partners. You've heard of initiatives such as Timbuktu. You've heard of the Rwanda Innovation Fund. You've heard of Catapult. You've heard of the Innovation Hub. Again, these are initiatives that are all at play to see how we leverage the youth who are coming up with very innovative solutions that respond to market needs, while also giving them the capacity to be able to deploy it, both in terms of a framework that enables them to test, but also in terms of securing funding that they can use to deploy the solutions that they're able to event.
Let us look at AI and compliance here. They're just not just technical tools, Nick. They are part of Africa's integration into the global economy. So what message is Rwanda sending to the continent and to international players or partners by hosting this forum with Afreximbank?
One clear message is we want to collaborate. Two, there are lessons that we've learned, but we know there are lessons that others have learned. How do we come again around the table to say, let's dialogue. Let's identify opportunities of partnership that is strategic, that grows all of us. So like the saying goes, if you are not at the table, then you're on the plate. So we're saying we are creating a platform that is convening interested stakeholders to discuss issues that are pertinent for all of us. So we all have something in it, and it will only make all of us better if we are able to get around the table to dialogue. It has to start there. It's only when you cause conversation that you begin to see what's working for you, what's not working, what others have done, and then be able to inform yourself. So that's the message, and that's the call to action. Is the world is agile. The world is not going to wait on us. We need to be captains of our economies, and we need to be at the forefront. If not, then we are going to find ourselves always at the plate somewhere else.
Mr. Nick Barigye, Deputy Governor of the National Bank of Rwanda, thank you so much for those great insights, and we do indeed look forward to the forum come November. Thank you so much for tuning in. I have been your host, Tabitha Muthoni.